We have made it to legendary North Dakota. I'm in Tacoma, North Dakota, and as you can see behind me, there's a pyramid. That is the MSR pyramid. It was a Cold War base back in the day, and they housed a bunch of missiles here in case the Soviets tried to launch their own missiles at the US. So this is a missile defense system base, and in that pyramid there, those circles are actually radars to detect whether or not the Soviets were launching missiles towards the US. It cost about $6 billion to make, and unfortunately they didn't have this in operation for very long, so depending on how you look at it, it could either be a tremendous waste of taxpayer dollars, or it served its purpose, kept America safe for the time that it was used for. So it's pretty cool looking at it here. So it's a big old giant concrete pyramid in the middle of the countryside. This is Hurricane Lake Church. Looks like it's been abandoned for quite a while. Up in here with the amount of birds. I have no idea what they're doing. It's a bunch of barn swallows, it looks like. Probably not used to getting too many visitors out here. I am standing in front of what is now called Journey Church. When I lived here 30 years ago, it was called Minot First Assembly of God. And I vividly remember being in this parking lot as a child. And this is where we had different events for kids and stuff. And I always remember going in and out of that door right there. So it's pretty surreal being back here after all these years. So let's go inside and see what the place looks like now. This is a lot different than it was 30 years ago. I remember having the singing Christmas trees here, and one of my favorite things was coming to the Sunday evening services, and a lot of times they'd have chalk drawings, and they would draw pictures with chalk based on what the sermon was about. That was pretty cool. And I remember standing up on that stage and children's Christmas play singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how wonderful you
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's just really surreal being back here. My dad would help run sound up there. I think it was down this hallway. It wasn't when I was a kid, I wasn't too bright, and I put my finger in between the door and the door frame on the side that the hinges are connected to. Not smart. I had to put a splint on my finger for a few weeks, and I don't think it actually broke, but it hurt like crazy. My parents were the children's pastors of this church over 30 years ago. And it's really cool being back in this room. And one of the sermons my parents preached was about the prodigal son, and me and my dad reenacted that story. As my dad played the father in the parable, and I played the prodigal son, and running into his arms, and he embraced me. Getting emotional thinking about it, because my dad's been gone for 11 years, passed away. It's really cool being back here, not gonna lie. So it brings back a lot of memories. This is Minot Air Force Base. I lived here when I was a toddler. And my dad worked at the firing range here. And I just remember visiting him there while he was working, and also going to the BX, the base exchange, and also the commissary, which was the grocery store. And in here is the housing, so somewhere in this area is where we lived on the base before moving to the house in Deering. There are kids over in the playground, so I'm just going to stay here and film from my car. But this is Glenburn Public School. I went to school here from kindergarten through 3rd grade. And when I was here, I remember they installed those basketball courts and some also foursquare courts next to it. So when I was in 2nd grade, I was sitting inside of this door here, and Mr. Lavacek sent me out of the classroom out into the hall, because we were about to watch the movie Aladdin, but I kept laughing along with some of my other classmates. And he said, "Okay, whoever laughs again is getting sent out in the hallway. And as soon as he said that, I was like, bah! And immediately he sent me out into the hallway, which was right inside this door. Now, while I was sitting out in the hallway there, my dad comes walking up those steps here. And I'm like, I see him and he comes through the door, and I was like, Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to laugh. I didn't mean to get in trouble. And he says to me, what are you talking about? Your brother forgot his gym shoes at home. I'm here to bring them to him. So it's cool to see that. That was in 2nd grade. I'm standing in the living room of my old house that I haven't been here in 30 years since my family moved away. It's quite a bit different.
A Bible!
You got a Bible?
Wow, all right, Brandon. Give me your paper.
Kennel for the Goldens. Cassie's in the back, probably in her doghouse. Beagle.
Yeah, it's been beautiful living out here.
Yeah, it is.
So we'll give them a tour of the house. This is the kitchen. It says, welcome to my room. My name is Bradley. Brad? Jumping on his bed. Quit jumping on your bed, Brad. You know you're supposed to do that.
I'm currently walking the grounds of my old house from 30 years ago. My dad actually installed this basketball hoop. It's really cool to see. And then the shelter belt. This is bringing back a lot of memories. And we're gonna go check out the barn and the shop and see what those look like now compared to 30 years ago. So here was the barn. We didn't really use the barn when we lived here. So the basketball hoop used to be up there on the roof, but then we moved it over to there. And then here's the shop. My dad did a lot of work in this shop. He would hunt deer and hang them up in here and skin them. Yeah, so yeah, my dad spent a lot of time in this building here.
People lived here before. He ran this as a body shop and went out of business. Water tank for the garden, and haul water in.
Not gonna lie, it's pretty sad to see it like this. Yeah, it's really cool being back to my childhood home after 30 years. It's pretty emotional. It was good to see you, Deering House, after 30 years. Here's another abandoned church. And there's a bunch of birds flying around. They've probably taken up residence inside of it. And the steeple part here is leaning to the left. Probably won't be too much longer until it collapses altogether. And you can see that there are no front steps anymore. The door's laying on its side inside the entryway. Some pretty cool graffiti in there though. Hope you can see that. Just trying to get a better, clear image of that graffiti. So yeah, you just come to North Dakota. I mean, I grew up here basically the first 15 years of my life, and even while living here, I didn't know that this state was it's just covered in abandoned houses and churches like this. And they make for cool photos and videos, but it just makes you wonder what happened. Currently in Tioga, North Dakota. Now I'm just changing it up, checking out the town a little bit. See what it's like. Old fire truck. Ray Rural Fire Department. This building looks like it might have been a hotel back in the day. Auto shop. Ace Hardware. Some cool mason jars with, looks like they might have lights in them or something. It's an old storefront. Tiny little house tucked in between these businesses. And here's the post office. So that is Tioga, North Dakota, the main street here. And there's a grain elevator. It looks like there might be an abandoned house next to it. Windows smashed in above the door there. So yeah, it's a nice little breather, take a break. Got some food and just checking out the town. right down the street from the school is this abandoned house. I'm not going to go inside. Take my ND filter off. Nice purple walls and green. You can see the cracking on the walls there, the decay on the ceiling. It's boarded up. That doesn't seem safe. A bunch of old bottles. Some old bottles there. A bunch of antlers. Very musty smell here. I'm not gonna go inside. It doesn't seem too safe in there. There's also an old school desk. Probably belonged to the school down the street. And you see these columns here kind of falling apart too on this front porch. So yeah, it's a cool find. Abandoned school, abandoned house. So once again, there's the house right down the street from the school. So there's a park ranger in there giving me a little bit of the history of this place. He said it was open for 39 years, which is the longest any fur trading post in the country was ever open for. This is a very old car horn. It says that honk me once per person, so let's see what it sounds like. So this is the historic site of Fort Buford. It was a military outpost in the 1860s, and this is, in that very building, that is where Sitting Bull surrendered. tour guide here said that at its peak there were 600 soldiers here, and they had 6 different barracks that each one would house 100 soldiers. This is an old foundation to one of the barracks. This right here is Lewis and Clark Elementary School, where I went to school from the end of 3rd grade through 6th grade. Now the sign may say Historic Apartments on 4th, but what this building actually is, or was Mandan Junior High. I went to school here in 7th and 8th grade. I remember going over to that glass door, and inside there'd be a pop machine, and I get a bottle of Fruitopia before class every morning. And if you don't know what Fruitopia is, it just means that I'm old as dirt, because it was a juice drink that Coke made back in the day that got discontinued. This is the Mandan High School that I went to. It's now abandoned. They built a new high school. That's the front door. Through those windows is where the cafeteria was. And I only attended here in 9th grade, and then my family moved. But I remember every day I'd walk up this sidewalk over to these stairs, and every morning before class, me and my friends would meet at that door. It's crazy being back here 24 years later. I'm currently in Mandan, North Dakota, and I am at my second childhood home and the second of this trip, and it's right there. It was blue when I lived here. This is the first time I've been back in 24 years, and my family was the first family to actually live in this house. We actually had the house built for us, and I remember during the design plans, my mom always wanted a bay window, so my dad made sure to tell them to install a bay window, so that's why there's a bay window in the front window there. And then the gray house next door there, that was my 5th grade teacher, Miss Spears' house. So it's kind of like a Boy Meets World, Mr. Feeney type situation where I live next door to my teacher. So yeah, we're gonna see if they're home and see if they'll let me look around.
Packers.
Isn't it funny they both open the same thing?
Yeah.
Bradley's as you can tell, he's a Bulls fan. You drew that. Two little boys playing Nintendo. What are you playing?
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I wasn't able to go inside my second childhood home here in Mandan, but I did talk to one of the people that live here. They would have let me in, but their dogs are kind of acting a little crazy, but that's okay. He said that the layout's basically the same. They made a few changes and modifications, changed out the cupboards in the kitchen just because they were getting a little dated. But other than that, he said it's pretty much the same. So it's still cool to come back here. Definitely brings back a lot of memories.
Some things change. Others fade away. Slowly, quietly, like whispers lost to time. And still others feel like they've been sitting there, patiently waiting for us to return. We grow up, we move on, we chase new dreams and build new lives far from where we started. But no matter how far we wander, it's important to remember where we came from. Because those roots, the streets we walked, the faces we knew, the places that shaped us, they're part of who we are. They remind us of the paths we've taken, and sometimes they help us find the paths we haven't yet discovered. Home isn't just a place on a map. It's the moments and memories, the stories tucked away in old walls, the laughter and the tears echoing through empty rooms. It's the feeling of belonging, even when everything else has changed. Some things change, some things fade, and some are waiting for us to come back, to remember, to carry them forward with us. Because in the end, where we come from helps light the way to where we're going.
A week in North Dakota brought back a lot of memories. Went to both of my childhood homes. Thankfully, I was able to go inside one of them. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed revisiting all these places and visiting some of them for the first time as well. Have a nice day.